So if you happen to owe a lot of money to the IRS and you're thinking about filing bankruptcy, you need to be very careful. And the reason for that is that many a times, even if you file bankruptcy, most of the IRS debt is going to stay on the books and you're going to be responsible for it. Now, especially if we're dealing with payroll taxes or we're dealing with fraud and so forth, that can last a lifetime. But we're working on a case right now that came through us via an attorney that we do a lot of business with, and he's a bankruptcy attorney. So apparently, this client approached the attorney directly, which is something that is very important to do. Obviously, if you're thinking about bankruptcy and you owe the IRS a lot of money, you better do your due diligence, and more importantly, make sure you hire someone that can do the due diligence for you, because chances are you're going to make a mistake. So this bankruptcy attorney reached out to us because he's done it several times before. And we have a program where we can get power of attorney. We can download all of the IRS transcripts that the IRS has for a specific taxpayer. And then we can determine very quickly what percentage of that debt may be waived or done away with in bankruptcy. And there are certain rules of engagement that you need to be aware of if you're going to think about bankruptcy. And in this particular case, what was interesting is that this taxpayer still owes north of 600,000, 630 some odd thousand dollars to the IRS over several years. So it's not just 1 year in which the taxpayer owes that money, but it is for multiple years. And in this situation, when I ran the program to determine what percentage of that debt would go away, it was actually approximately 240,000. So yes, that debt would go away in bankruptcy, but the remaining 400 some odd thousand dollars would still be on the books. So, and the reason for that is that there are certain rules of engagement when it comes to bankruptcy. You have the 3-year rule, the 2-year rule, and the 240-day rule. And I'm not going to get into any of those at this point because I want to make this a short video for you. But at the end of the day, if you mitigate those rules, and if you're able to identify the rules and what years those rules apply to, you may be able to get away and get rid of some of that debt via bankruptcy. But in this situation, only 240,000 more or less was going to go away in bankruptcy. So the remainder was going to still be on the books. So the question that I asked the attorney is, go back to your taxpayer, to your client, and determine how does he feel about this. His business is not doing very, very well. They're about to go out of business pretty much. If you do file for bankruptcy and you're able to get rid of 240,000, you're still going to have the additional 400,000 that you're going to have to pay for. And how comfortable does he feel about that? Even though, when you file bankruptcy, your tax credit goes to the trash, and it'll take you a few years for you to try to revive your tax credit in the United States under bankruptcy laws. So he went back to the taxpayer. And the taxpayer obviously was not very happy that only 240,000 out of the 600 and change was going to go away. But there was another option. And when I talked to the attorney prior to the attorney going back to the taxpayer, I said, look, if his financial situation is really bad, then we can either ask for a CNC, a currently not collectible, because of his financial situation, and the clock would still be ticking on the statute of limitations, so it would not have a negative impact on the statute of limitations for the taxpayer. Or if it's a suitable approach, we could file an offer in compromise on behalf of the taxpayer. And the attorney thought it was a good idea to kind of give that some thought, went back to the taxpayer. We got a call from the attorney 2 weeks ago. And the attorney said, Bert, I'm going to step away from this case because I think you can probably help this taxpayer either through a CNC or an offer in compromise. And I'll go ahead and give you permission for you to discuss a case with the taxpayer and move forward. So that's what has been done. We're now currently working with the taxpayer and preparing all the documentation that we need. We're going to go with the offer and compromise because of his financial situation and the fact that he barely has any assets and any income. So that may be apropos in this particular case. So for those of you that have issues or considering bankruptcy, make sure you get a hold of a professional that can help you with this. I get those at times, and when I feel that bankruptcy may be suitable, I actually refer the business to some of these attorneys that are bankruptcy attorneys because they can do a good job, and otherwise they'll refer the business back to me if I can do something for them that does not involve bankruptcy. So if you want a private consultation, please feel free to reach out. My name is Bert Salazar, and you can call me at area code 888-477-0108. You can also email me at Bert, B-E-R-T, at gablestaxgroup.com, and I'll be more than happy to have a conference call or a video conference with you to discuss your personal situation. So have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Take care.